Welcome back. The Nigerian Senate is set to approve President Bola Tinubu's fresh request for a $2.2 billion loan. According to the president, this loan request is part of Nigeria's budgetary financing plan aimed at addressing a portion of the 9.17 trillion naira fiscal deficit in the 2024 budget. And while some experts caution against incurring more debt, President Tinubu asserts that these funds are needed for the ongoing implementation of projects and programs outlined in the 2024 Appropriation Act, which are intended to stabilize the economy. He highlighted that the key areas where the funds will be utilized include priority sectors such as power, transportation, agriculture, defense, and security. Let's talk about this and sundry issues now. Bringing in from Abuja, public affairs, public finance analyst Olusegun Elemo, and he joins us via Zoom. Good morning and welcome. Good to see you again, Olusegun Elemo. So what do you make of this fresh loan request amidst concerns of a deficit in the budget?
Yeah, thank you very much, and of course, happy to see you again. Thank you for inviting me. I think that it's not a surprise, only that for someone like me, I thought that we will be able to cut down on borrowings, given the increase in revenue inflows to the country, to the federation, including the federal government and the 36 states and local governments. Yes, that's a fact. There's been increase in revenue inflows, but also the reason I said it's not a surprise is because of the development deficit that we also have in the country. There are quite a number of sectors calling for attention, and given the minimal resources that is available, it's then necessary to go out to borrow to cover for some of those deficits. You had also mentioned that in the 2024 budget we had almost more than 9 trillion naira budget deficits. Of course, that would need to be financed. Howbeit, it's concerning really that some of these requests, the transparency around the requests, and even the transparency around the utilization of the funds, whether borrowings or revenues generated internally. Up until now, we don't have, the Q4 2023 budget implementation report, the Q1, Q2 2024 budget implementation reports. These are documents, fiscal documents, that will point you in the direction that government is spending, how much government is spending, how efficiently government is spending, and that will then justify whatever you are generating as revenue and borrowing as debt. So those are the issues that are concerning for me, and I think that needs also to be attended to by the federal government.
Well, this borrowing has actually, generated lots of concerns among economists like you and also some, financial analysts. They are saying that since the removal of fuel subsidy and the federal government's claim that we've generated enough revenue, we're making more money, as they say, and then we're sending more monies to the states for, as allocation. Do you feel that this borrowing, this heavy reliance on borrowing actually highlights the gaps in revenue generation? Because if you're making more money, then why are we thinking of borrowing? How do you explain this?
Well, you see, you can make more money, but the more money you're making is not solving more problems. I think that's the problem. That's the issue we're in. That's the state we're in. The naira has been devalued. So, for instance, even when you bring it to a micro level, if you were earning, say, maybe 200, 300,000 in 2015, and then you are earning 700,000 in 2024. The 700,000 you're earning in 2024 may not even be as much valuable as the 300 you were earning in 2015. So that's the state we're in. So you can be making more money and not solving more problems. And I already mentioned about the development deficits that we have in the country. Yes, subsidy had been removed, but also there was foreign exchange harmonization, which then caused some sort of devaluation on the currency, and then jacked up prices of goods and services. Commodity prices increased significantly, and those are things that government also pay for in terms of services that they render to citizens. So, on the one breath, you have more money, but that more money is not solving more problems, and those problems need to be attended to. Hence, the need to go for borrowings and all that. Also, you would recall the significant jump between the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, and then again, what we're hearing that the president will propose as the 2025 budget. That also has some credibility issue, because if you know your revenue generating capacity, I think that should inform your planning in terms of your budget. And even if there will be some sort of variation in terms of what you budget and what you actually spend, you shouldn't have so much gap in that you will not have a few weeks to the close of the financial year, and then you are going heavy on borrowing to cover for the deficit. I think those are issues that the government and those responsible for planning in terms of budget will need to look into. What is the credibility of the planning that we have, and how feasible is the budget itself in terms of realization? So I think there's an issue with that, but also is that we are not responsible enough in terms of even how we spend money. The amount of money the president just proposed to borrow to the Senate now is equivalent of about 1.7 trillion. But when you look at the report of the Auditor General for 2021, which was just published a few days ago, you will see that close to 3 trillion is outstanding in terms of revenue not collected by just 8 ministries, departments, and agencies. How do you interpret that? That you are wasting away resources on the one hand, and then you are looking for the same resources on another hand. It doesn't just make sense. That's absolute fiscal irresponsibility. And the government will need to look into that direction if we really want to move faster than we are currently.
Right. And so how do you think this request will, pan out? How do you think it's going to pan out over there at the National Assembly amidst these concerns?
Well, it's going to be approved. I don't see any roadblock to the request of the president. I think the president and National Assembly leadership, I think they're on the same page on the direction they want the government to go. So I don't see any roadblock. In fact, if anything at all, is that the Senate Committee on Foreign and Domestic Debt, have been mandated by the Senate to report back in 24 hours. I don't see anything other than them recommending that the request be approved, and then the federal government will go ahead to receive the loan. Albeit, like I said, there are transparency issues. We don't even know where the loan is coming from. From where are you requesting the loan? To what expenditure item are you backing the loan with? Those are issues that you need to, you need to just full disclosure. When you're requesting loan, it's going to be on behalf of Nigerians. Nigerians have, the duty to know where is this loan coming from in specifics, and to what item in the budget is this loan tied to. So there can be some sort of monitoring on the utilization of the loan, but those information are not provided.
Interesting. So while others are saying that we do not need to borrow money, we need to just make more money and then utilize this money for all the projects. Others are saying that we should borrow more money, because if you look at countries like the United States, it's the most indebted. If you also look at the United Kingdom, look at UAE, they borrowed well over $100 billion, and then we see the infrastructure they put on ground where every one of us always want to run to for holidays and all of that. So someone like Senator Jim Ibrahim is saying that, come on, Nigeria should borrow well over $100 billion. let's say 150, maybe, around that figure, and then we'll channel this towards infrastructure development and all of the things that we need. Even if we have to pay salaries, we have to pay it. And then we'll see that Nigeria will become better. Do you think that kind of argument holds water?
You see, when you have public institutions that are fiscally responsible in terms of how they use public funds and how they report back to the people, there's no problem in going, heavy on borrowing. The problem is not whether you borrow or you don't. The question is, what do you use the money for? And how do you use the money? Those are the issues. If you, like I just pointed out to you now, you have 8 ministries, departments, and agencies that cannot account for 3 trillion. That 3 trillion is more than, and let's put this in context. This 3 trillion is the services that these agencies rendered and they ought to have been paid for, which should have gone into the Federation account. So you have people who are just irresponsible in terms of financial management, and they can't collect revenue back to the government to allow government to be liquid enough to meet its constitutional responsibility. And then the government will then have to go and look for money to meet other constitutional duties. So those are the issues. So it's not just about borrowing. There's no problem in borrowing if you are going to use the money, effectively and efficiently, and it's going to enhance, the economy of the country. The countries that you just mentioned, look at the infrastructure in this country. Can you compare with what you have in Nigeria? Talk about the United States, talk about the United Arab Emirates. Can you compare the transportation infrastructure, the road infrastructure, the aviation infrastructure? Can you compare in any way? So if Senator Jimoh Ibrahim comes around to say you can borrow $100 billion, what measures have the National Assembly, in terms of the oversight function, what measures have they put in place to ensure that when you borrow $100 billion, you can use it, and on the ground, we can see $100 billion infrastructure? Those are the issues. So I don't think that you can't just have a blanket argument that you can go ahead and borrow $100 billion when indeed you have a drain here that is, that doesn't absorb anything, and the money drains out just like that.
Right, and then let's quickly talk about, how this is going to spiral, so to speak, into the future budgets, especially as the 2025 budget has already been approved now, and, the stage will shift to the National Assembly in terms of budget presentation. My question now is, so with this deficit, how is it going to affect 2025 budget and even future ones? It does appear to be like still going to be flowing into future budget presentations or documents.
Absolutely. I mean, we may be expecting well over 20 trillion budget deficit in the 2025 budget. And that's going to be really, really absurd. That's going to be really, really absurd. You see, I personally, I don't have a problem in saying, okay, let's go and borrow. We can borrow. But I'm saying that we're just borrowing and we're wasting away the resources. That's what is, concerning for me. If we are sure that what we borrow, we are going to get the best value for what we borrow, yes, we can go ahead and borrow so we can accelerate development locally. We can quickly cover many of the development deficits in all the sectors that are most, are important, whether in education. Look at the state of public education in Nigeria. Have you seen any significant improvement? Look at the number of out-of-school children. They're not even encouraged to go to school. Look at the state of healthcare. Just a few weeks ago, I saw, the university teaching hospital, the University College Hospital in Ibadan, and there was no power. There was no electricity. And people were, stranded. Sick people were stranded in the hospital. That's the same hospital just 3 decades ago, where you had foreigners coming to serve internship, you have foreigners, coming here, for treatment and all of that. I mean, and then when you compare that with all of the teaching hospitals we have in Nigeria, what is their state? You need to go into the report of the Auditor General for 2021, and you will get a better perspective of our teaching hospitals across the 6 geopolitical zones. So you see, we are running nowhere. That's just the interpretation of the kind of race that we're running. We are borrowing money, claiming that we want to invest heavily in infrastructure, but indeed, when you look on the ground, there is nothing to show for it. And in 2025, we are going to have maybe close to maybe more than 20 trillion budget deficit. And then what will be at the end of the day? What will we have to show for it? Well, I think only time can tell.
Well, maybe there will be an argument against what's your position that there is nothing to show for it. Yeah, because this maybe because of the vastness of this nation, it might be difficult to say yes, this is exactly what we've done. But then they're actually doing something, because that is the reason why we have the EFCC and also the financial police, where people like you also monitor how these monies are spent. But if you look at President Tinubu's administration, they argue that the loan will fund key projects, development projects and infrastructure under the 2025 budget. So I'm wondering, particularly in specific terms, what sectors of economy should receive priority in allocation to ensure long-term growth, and how can we effectively monitor how these monies are disbursed and utilized?
We need to focus on human capital. And in focusing on human capital, you need to look at what's happening in education. You see, look at the amount of money we're spending in education tourism, for instance. It's because you see, you have the people, you have the environment, and you just need to enhance the infrastructure and invest in those sectors. So there's need to look at what's happening in the education sector. There's need to look at what's happening in the health sector. There's also need to look at the transportation sector. There is need to look at heavily what's happening in the agriculture sector. These are very important sectors that will provide the kind of stability that we require. Yes, we need to look at very prominent infrastructure, the roads, the aviation infrastructure and all of that, but also that ties up with transportation.
So with all of these that you mentioned, this is quite almost like the holistic aspect of the sectors that we have. Do you think the monies that we have and the ones that we are going to borrowing, do you think it's going to be enough compared to similar countries that go borrowing and then utilize this for same? Ethiopia is building the largest airports, and we see other countries in Africa that are doing so well. So do you think those monies will be sufficient, or we need more?
There is no money, even at a micro level, at individual level. There is no money that is enough. Money can never be enough. The human want is insatiable. It will always move from one stage of the ladder to the other. So, but the point is, what you have at the moment, how efficiently are you using it? And how much problems are you solving? Those are the issues. And I just pointed out to you now that we aren't even solving that problem with the monies that are available to us. Much of it is going to waste. I just pointed out to you the report of the Auditor General indicating that, providing the fact that public officials aren't responsible in terms of how they're utilizing public resources. So if you get 1 trillion naira, it's not, you can use it and make sure that you use it efficiently, and the people can see the value of that 1 trillion naira. If you get 100 trillion, you can use it and nobody sees anything on the ground. So it's not about having enough. It's about how you use what you have.
And talking about the 2025 budget, 47.9 trillion naira, it's said to be, well, analysts, economists have said it's the lowest since 2018 when you factor in that the naira has, been devalued. But what are your thoughts on it and the projections therein?
Well, yes, it may be. Well, it is, given the devaluation. But then is that our reality is our reality. So the budget has gone up in terms of naira denomination, may have come down in terms of dollar denomination. What I expect the 2025 budget to point towards is in the direction of what should be the priority of the government, which I have mentioned, human capital. If we are still not, looking in that direction, it presents us as unserious. And whatever development aspiration that we claim that we have is nothing to go by. So I would expect that the president will sit down his appointees, his ministers, all of the appointees, and give them, the charge to invest heavily in human capital and ensure that whatever investment we make, going forward, actually deliver, services and value to the people that can significantly cut down on education, tourism, improve the numbers in terms of out-of-school children, improve our health infrastructure, and cut down on health tourism, and then improve on the transportation infrastructure heavily, both urban and rural networks, and of course provide a country with food sufficiency. I would also expect that the president will look very, very, very keenly in the security sector. You know that the security sector is one sector that lacks total transparency, and it may be understandable in that there are security issues and the level of disclosure will have to be moderate in terms of what government discloses, what we buy, what we do, and things like that. But what the average Nigerian wants to see, someone like me, is that I want to be able to know that traveling one distance to the other is secured. And if I'm a farmer or something, I can go to farm easily and get my harvest and take it to the market. Those are the things that people want to see. And you can see how that ties up with food security. Right. So I think we don't have time on our hands as a country. The rest of the continent is waiting on us, and we just need to be more responsible and move faster than we are doing.
And in looking at what the rest of the continent is looking, especially some other countries within Africa, look at the president in Rio de Janeiro recently. He championed the global tax system, where he said that companies from the developed countries, the global north, who are doing their businesses in the global south, are not paying taxes. And then this is not something that we should be encouraging. So what strategies do you think Nigeria can implement to ensure fair taxation in this emerging sector, especially talking about the digital economies, which was a specific aspect that the president mentioned, highlighted at the summit or conference?
Well, if foreign companies aren't paying taxes, whose fault is that? Does a regulation, allow them to go on tax? You have laws to cater to digital taxation. Who is going to provide the policy environment for digital taxation for the continent or the country? So I think you see, yes, I understand with the president, there is a limit to how you can go and just, throw your hands up in the air as if, even locally, again, look at the report of the Auditor General. You see ministries, departments, and agencies willfully not deducting taxes from contracts and transactions awarded by government. This is locally. Monies go from the Federation account to pay contractors, and willfully public officials refuse to deduct taxes. It's there in the report. And then you want to tax foreign companies. Yeah, of course, it's important that those companies pay taxes. But the question is, are they violating any regulation? If you do have regulations and they are violating it, then you should go hard on them. I don't think any Nigerian company or any African company will go, foreign, for instance, in the United States or United Kingdom, and then operate there, whether digitally or physically, and they will not pay taxes. So if it's not going to be allowed there, then why are you allowing it on the continent?
Right, and of course, all right, we'll soon wrap up, but let's quickly get your observation about the need, as some experts have said, to further to sustain the deregulation of the oil sector. What do you make of this? The oil sector, the exchange rates, and all of that, especially as we wind down the year and begin a new one.
Well, I think that some of the policy decisions of the president is beginning to provide some stability at the macroeconomic level and with regards to the oil sector. So there's some stability. For instance, I think there's some sort of agreement between the Dangote refineries now and the marketers to see how, and the president has provided leadership in that regard, and kudos to him. So you see supply security in terms of fuel products. We hope that there are no distortions in the market going forward. Also, with the foreign exchange market, there's some sort of stability, no matter how inconvenient that stability might look. There's also some sort of stability. We hope that those stability will be maintained. And what will sustain the stability is investment in the economy. When your economy is able to absorb shock properly, you are producing more. You are able to, attract more foreign direct investment, right, repatriate more, more capital into the country, and all of that. Then you will be able to stabilize, that other aspect. So we are hoping to see the stability sustained going forward, and more investment in critical sectors, leveraging the budget instrument.
Right, Olusegun Elemo, a fine place to rest our conversation. We thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you for having me.